Good evening and welcome to Access Iowa City, a program about the disability and independent living movements in southeastern Iowa. Access Iowa City is brought to you by a generous contribution from the Noon Pilots Club of Johnson County in collaborations with the Extended Dream Foundation, Access to Independence, the Center for Disabilities and Development, and the hard work of the folks here at Public Access Television Channel 18. I'm Terry Cunningham, President of the Board of Directors of Access to Independence, Vice Chair of the Johnson County Mental Health Developmental Services Planning Council, and a person who's lived with a significant disability for the last 41 years. Tonight we're having part 2 of our show with our friends Barb and Harry on relationships with folks who are disabled and non-disabled. And as always, Keith Ruff's here.
Thank you, Terry. Barb and Harry, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we were discussing last time about how in putting it together, so both of you can lead your lives pretty well like you did beforehand. So what, if any, major obstacles didn't we discuss last time?
Well, one of the things that, for someone that's in a chair and with a significant disability, is that there's things that I can't do that I used to be able to do at one time. Like right now, we've got a back hallway light that needs replacement, but I can't get on a ladder to reach it. So I have to depend on Barb to do those sort of things, or else we have to hire out someone to come over and do it.
Need to find tall neighbors. Those are certainly, there are different things that in a relationship with one individual disabled and one not, that you certainly have to plan and work out. I was in one that didn't work out so well, but things with the disabilities, you say, like things around the home that, you know, normally chores would be split, or the fact that you don't drive anymore and Barb does a large share of the driving, so you have to figure out whether, you know, you're taking seats, whether you're getting a city bus, whether you're going to take a cab, whether Barb can drive, and the whole logistics of that we all go through, or, you know, yard work or planning on who's going to be where. How have you guys managed to kind of deal with that? Do you have charts or graphs, or, you know,
well, we get together once a week and go over our calendars for the upcoming several weeks ahead, so we know where each other's going to be and whether I need to depend on seats for a ride, or if I can depend on Barb to give me a ride somewhere. So that's one of the things that we've done.
I'd say that master calendar, it has really been a lifesaver for us. And we have to go over it not only once a week, but usually day by day, now that Harry's gotten so busy that he's gone as much as I am. So there are often times where the issue is whether he wants to have a manual chair, which is a lot of work for him, if he's going into the Murph building at the hospital or and back out and so on, that it can really be tiring, or if he wants his power chair. Well, then if he wants the power chair, he has to take the seats bus. And, you know, just, you know, it could be that he's going to be at work until 6 and we want to go to a play at 7. We have to figure out which chair is he taking, who's driving when, and how that's going to go. And so it takes a lot of coordination, and we really do, you know, I go to work early in the morning most mornings. I don't always see him or talk to him before I leave. So we're both kind of saying, what are you doing tomorrow? What am I doing tomorrow? Okay, are we going to see each other? Who's doing lunch? How are we getting there? All that kind of stuff. So it requires a lot of talking over. So that's one thing we've done. What else has made our house run smoothly? Chores and...
Well, just the grocery situation. Usually you go to the store and buy it out, buy groceries, and we make lists of what we need.
Yeah. And one of the things about the master calendar is how many times we're eating at home, dinners at home, because we try to share that a little bit. Harry does a lot of grilling, and just which times does one of us have to remember to defrost something and figure out what we're having for the night and that kind of thing. So it's often that we're really having dinner 3 or 4 times a week at home, but other times we're out and doing different things, or I'm at work one night and that kind of stuff. So
one of the things that I've personally found that is really a time saver in that with me is I order my groceries online for
oh, do you?
And it's like $5 for them to shop it and $7 to deliver, whatever. And I figure I save more than that in impulse buying every trip.
Well, that's a great idea.
You can call and either have them just shop your groceries and you stop by and pick them up shopped and bagged, or you can schedule delivery and they'll bring them out to your house. And you know, if there's stuff that needs to go in the freezer or the fridge, you know, especially for Harry, the guys are glad to do that. And I have found it just works out really nice.
That's a really neat thing.
You know, and that, as I say, not only, because that's something I couldn't do on a bus.
Yeah.
You know, you can only take so many bags on you for seats or Bionic bus or whatever. So, you know, I'd have to go shopping every other day almost.
Yeah.
But to be able to do a shop of, what do you want it to be, a big shop, or you know, it's hardly worth it to do just a couple things, but then again, you take into your time. Your time. And if it's worth paying that amount of money for you to go home and have the groceries sitting there and put away, as opposed to having to figure in that extra 20 minutes or half hour to swing through on the way home, I have just found that to be wonderful.
That sounds like a great idea.
Maybe something
I love that idea.
to experiment with anyway.
Yes.
And supposedly Walmart is test marketing that nationwide.
Oh, are they?
That they might go into
Interesting.
the grocery.
I know John's does too, but they've always done that. I don't know whether Hy-Vee has always done it, but I know that they have.
I'm not sure for how many years they've been doing it. But,
Yeah.
You know, and John, I don't think John's, you know, has the selection that a Hy-Vee does. So just, you know, it just kind of depends. But you know, it's
for a while
nice thing to try.
we took and used Naomi's for some of our meals.
Yeah, I use them.
We had them prepackaged meals, and they were easy to defrost ahead of time, and just I could cook those up fairly easily.
Sure.
That was a good solution too.
There's lots of things out there that kind of splits that stuff up.
Yeah.
You know, and your vehicle is not adapted for.
It's a station wagon.
Doesn't have a lift or that, so that,
No.
you know,
And it has we've got a pretty good system for getting the manual chair in the back seat, but I have noticed the wear and tear. The whole side of the car is just tattered. The paint's off at the bottom where Harry gets in, and where I put it in the back seat is a mess. And it's just the way it goes. Chairs are hard on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in, now that you both have a very busy schedule, how does the weather influence that schedule, especially yours, Harry?
Well, that always concerns me, particularly in the winter, getting around. But Seats has been really good about making sure that I can get on the bus and off the bus and into the doorway. But the winter's probably the hardest part. Luckily, we had a mild winter this last winter, but who knows what it's going to be like.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, a lot of the difficulties, you know, the three of us have with power chairs and that comes because snow doesn't get cleaned up good. You know, you plow snow and you plow it into the curb cut and ramp area.
Yeah.
Or You know, you plow snow, and there's 1.5 feet of it out from the curb, so it makes it difficult if you're driving to park at the curb, you know, or they pile the snow around the parking meters, so somebody in a wheelchair couldn't get to a parking meter. You know, they're all things that, if a little more attention was paid, then it would make things much easier. How often, when you've driven around town after a snowdrift and look at the sidewalks, has somebody shoveled 1 shovel width down the sidewalk? For us, that might just be, well, 15 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to fit by on 12 inches of clean sidewalk.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though the law says you clean the whole sidewalk off, you know. There are just so many of those little nuisance things, you know, kind of like when you go out and have to plan. And that, you know, go ahead.
And I think that's one of the things is going out and having plan ahead. We both like to travel, and so in order to take and go anywhere, we have to call ahead of time to make sure there's an accessible room, that there's a roll-in shower, things like that people take for granted. Or if we're going out to eat, we have to call ahead to make sure that I can get into the establishment.
I think that's what I discovered about wanting Harry to go up north to my place that I used to love to go for the summer, for a week in the summer, that everywhere in northern Minnesota says they have accessible rooms in their cabins, but they'll say a wheelchair can get in, and then if you say, well, is the bathroom accessible? And they say, well, not really. And then you think, well, a person's going to stay somewhere for a week in the room, but not in the bathroom? What's going on here? And it took a really long time, and we found a cabin last summer that was, the cabin itself was accessible, and that was just great. But to get down to the dock was a very steep hill, and my son could get Harry up and down pretty easily, but when he went home, we were in trouble, you know, and he likes to go down there and fish. So it wasn't perfect, but it worked out for us to have a good vacation. But I had a recent bad experience with Hotels.com. They didn't have an accessible room when we got to town to the convention in Des Moines, and I knew there were not going to be rooms anywhere. And so whenever we're planning, we have to talk to somebody. We can't just go online and find the great deal that any old room will do. We just need a place to crash. We need a place the chair can get in, that he can maneuver and get around. It needs to be that big, and so generally you have to talk to somebody, and that you're going to pay the regular rates. So that's been kind of weird.
And you learn when you're doing that, you need to have a fairly detailed list.
Yes.
Because too often, the person who answers the phone at the desk to make a reservation doesn't know.
Yes.
You know, it's crazy, but they don't know, one, what accessibility means. Accessibility. Well, sure, we'll let you in. Oh, you meant in a room? Oh, in the bathroom too?
That's a big ask, isn't it?
Able to move around? Well, yeah, we've got 3 or 4 chairs in the room, and you know, a nice desk in the corner. Oh, that's a problem. Well, you know, or the rooms where the dresser's here, the bed's here, literally, and we're supposed to get through.
Yeah, no way to get through.
You know, you have to ask all those
really
questions.
Specific. We had 2 bad experiences in the last year. One where they said it was accessible and it wasn't when we got there. And then they said, well, we'll bring you a chair, a shower chair. And they brought one of those white plastic lawn chairs. And I just looked at them, you know. And then the other one was an older hotel in Iowa that we really wanted to stay in, and they said it was an accessible shower. And what they brought us was a shower chair that one leg fit in the bathtub and the other one didn't. So it was 2 different levels on the floor. I mean, there was no way you could have worked it. But it just is, you're so right. Not only do you have to have a list, but you have to really push on your questions and make sure you're really understanding this, and just ask everything. What if I get there and that room isn't really available? Then what are you going to do for us to make sure we're okay? Because there's nothing worse than being in the middle of a situation and not being able to solve the problem, you know.
You really need to request a confirmation email
Yes.
that says
Yes.
what room number it
Yes.
is, that it is confirmed,
Yes.
that it has this, that, and everything. One of the things that I have found traveling in the last several years, so I don't do that much anymore, is so many hotels have gone from bed frames to putting beds on platforms.
Yeah.
And that's partly to help the cleaning staff, and it's partly to help people not lose shoes and that.
Yeah.
Because people throw shoes under and they just reach and grab what they can. So by having a platform this far under the bed, then that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, I have to have a lift to get in bed.
Sure.
And, you know, either I take my lift with me or I rent one where I'm going. But if there's a platform instead of a frame, I can't get my lift far enough under.
Yeah, to get in there.
I end up hanging this far away from the bed.
You know,
And even if you ask them,
they don't get that.
They don't always understand it,
Yeah.
or they say yes. Some of them, places I've been at, when they've discovered that that's wrong, have sent people out to get a new frame immediately, or have some in storage that they switched out, that's fine. Other ones are, do you want the room or not?
I was just going to say, I think that one effect on me is I see the world very differently now. And I was just, when you said that about the platform beds, I was looking at a beautiful magazine this week that showed the most wonderful headboard and bed, and it was a platform bed. And so I was admiring it, and then I saw how much space there was between the edge of the platform and the mattress. And I go, oh, that won't work for us. Right away, you know. Or if I'm driving, I say, there are no curb cuts here. You know, I'm just in a different frame of mind always about whether it's a good place or not for us, whether it's friendly for us, and what's going to be involved in getting there and doing it in whatever we want.
And isn't it amazing that, you know, before Harry,
I never
all
would
that
have
stuff
thought of it.
looked perfectly fine.
Yeah, yeah.
You never would have thought to look at a door to see how wide it was to go in, or
No.
is it flat, or does it have a little lip on it, or,
Yeah,
you know, what
yeah.
kind of doorknobs it has, or, you know, it's, and until folks get in that situation for one reason or another, whether they have a partner, whether they have family, you know, that doesn't even dawn on them.
Yeah.
I have 20-some nieces and nephews, and great nieces and great nephews and whatever. This is the only way they've ever known me, is in a chair, not always in a power chair. And I never talked to them about accessibility or that kind of stuff. But because I was always fairly active with them, and, you know, we'd go shopping, or we'd go to ball games, or we'd go to school things, they got to the point where if they invited me to an activity, they could tell me what entrance I needed to go in, which entrance had the funny sidewalk, and which entrance had the doors that opened, or had the button that I could hit, or you know, had the magic carpet that you rolled over. They knew, you know, where the parking was that had the funny drawing on the ground, or that had the sign in front of it. They picked up on all of that stuff, even though we'd never had a conversation about it. But they knew that, you know, when we'd go to a parking lot, they and their mother may get up on the curb here to walk down to the door, but Uncle Terry stayed in the parking lot till he got to the funny part of the sidewalk. And they just knew.
Uh-huh.
And as I say, gave directions to places like that. Or would tell me, you know, I want you to go to this, but it doesn't have a funny sidewalk or that picture on the door. And it's just, you know, it's amazing how kids pick up on that stuff.
Yeah.
They have no idea why it is, but, you know, Uncle Terry needed things or did things different ways. Whether it was how I held a cup in both hands, or whether how I wove silverware in, and that was never strange for them. And they would frequently do it themselves. And I'd look over and catch them with, you know, two hands on the cup and kind of poke their mothers about it. And what are you doing? Drinking? Why are you holding the cup like that? Uncle Terry does. And You know, those were the three magic words pretty much with my nieces, nephews, and I and their parents. If Uncle Terry did it, then it may be okay, or Uncle Terry said I could, and that just drove them crazy. But
one very positive thing I've noticed in the area, and it deals with the young lady that brought me to your house.
Yes.
Whenever we go out to eat, I have to use the restroom. Now, a lot of places are very willing to clear out a bathroom and stand at the door so she can go in and help me. And they don't make an issue of it.
That's nice.
So we're making a little progress. Not much, but a little.
Yes.
But, you know, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're out and about. We do things. And, you know, for years, I've tried to convince people that the best way to get things to become accessible is show people that you're out and about and you use them. You know, you go up to somebody and, you know, an owner, and, you know, well, could you put an automatic door in, or could we have a ramp or something? Well, why? People with disabilities don't come here. We can't get in. But, you know, the more they see us out and about, the more reason to do that it is. How have your friends and people you know accepted you and Harry? I mean, your close friends obviously had to give him the litmus test first. As you go out and to all the different things you do you notice any reaction that people, whether they be your friends or not, have because of the situation?
That's something we've really talked about. What do you think?
I don't think so.
I think I have to be really honest about one thing, and that would be that my friends would have been concerned about me taking on what they would consider a burden at this stage in life. And one in particular is very worried about my back because I lift so much. And so I think that would be kind of an initial concern is, why would you fall in love with someone, you know, that you're going to have to, you know, why, you know, and you just think, well, it's all right. It's working out just fine. You know, don't worry about it. But that would be a concern about people who are worried about me and saying, this is a lot of work and you're, you know, what are you doing? So I don't think very many people have expressed that, but I just know that. So,
which is kind of a legitimate concern.
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of adaptive things that, you know, you can do to help that. But
and you and I talked about the issue of caretaking versus being a partner with someone.
Yes.
That's a very fine line to cross. And as I said, and having done it and not done it successfully and realized that was really a lot of insensitivity on my part. There just really is a line that you have to draw there.
I just decided right from the beginning she'd be my partner and I wouldn't be her caretaker.
But it's
Good for you.
Yeah, good job.
but it's becoming more prominent, which is a positive sign. Because I don't think Harry, Terry, or I would be good in either a nursing home or a living facility. Because we're too busy and we're too independent.
Yes.
But it's going to take a long time to get the general public to get it through their head, even though we are different in one way. In another way, we're just like anyone else.
Yeah.
And if you don't respect that, you're not respecting us as a human being.
Yes. I think I was just going to say, you know, sometimes when we're talking, well, Terry and I and Harry and I talked about this the other day. Sometimes there are issues that come up with any male-female relationship. We're on different planets sometimes. It's hard to understand. So sometimes it's not about a disability, it's about a gender. It's like, oh my gosh, how did you get that idea? You know, or he's thinking that about me. Sometimes it's an issue of manhood. I think it's hard for men to ask for help, and I think it's hard for men to watch a woman doing all the work, the gardening or whatever that they can't do or whatever. And so it gets to be an issue that someone has to be pretty secure in themselves to say, it isn't reasonable for me to do this job, and so I'm going to let go of it, and we'll either get it done by someone else or whatever. So that's a different issue. And then there are disability, or able and disabled issues. So I think lots of times it's just working through what's going on, and it's not ever going to be totally smooth for every minute. But
if you want to order the garden store, you're welcome to.
I think I'll forget that.
Well, and I think, you know, in your situation, it's a very different case than a couple who, you know, get married, you're both able-bodied, both able to do all this stuff, and you age into a situation where one needs more assistance than the other. You know, I think those probably happen easier than when you meet later in life, and that the whole relationship starts that way.
Well, in addition to that, I would also add that both of us had been alone for a long time without partners. So you also add in that older people who've been on their own, being very, very set in their ways. That enters in too.
Well, that's absolutely. You know, and folks with disabilities tend to develop ways to cope with things. And most everything we do looks like we're picking the hardest way in the world to do it. It's easier for us. We've found the easiest way to do it. And to want to change is very hard to
be willing. Yeah,
but I think you've nailed a lot of the things on the head there.
Or physically able to change the way I do something would be very difficult now because I'm set in my ways. And for me to change at this age, not mentally, physically, would be very difficult.
Well, we're almost done again. In our last minute or so, what little tidbits of information on a successful relationship would you guys like to share with us?
I think you have to make every day a loving day. That you need to let your partner know that you love her and that you care about her. And that's true for any relationship.
Well, I was going to say the same thing about communication really being important all the time, and just having it out and just saying your piece, whatever it is, and then having trust that it's going to be okay. That's like any relationship is that way, I think. So.
Well, it appears you guys are well on the way to having that perfected. We certainly want to thank you for coming on and sharing with us. And
thanks for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Good evening. We'll see you next time.
Good evening.